Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to work on how to distribute when given factored and vertex form, and how do we actually distribute it so that we can make it into standard form. So you got to remember, in this lesson, this was a previous topic that we worked on distributing, and we worked on the box method, which was every time that you distribute two parentheses, you set it up as a box and you fill everything in. But as you get older, unfortunately, the box method is going to be too time consuming, drawing this box and sometimes a rectangle, depending on if you're multiplying 2 by 2 or 2 by 3 and what it may be in the future. So you're going to also learn the distributive method, which is just kind of writing it out. So I'll show you the box method so we can refresh your memory, but we're also going to do the distributive method the entire process of this lesson. So in box method, you got to remember, you're multiplying x times x, which I hope you agree is going to be x squared. X times negative 3, which is two different pieces, so just stick them together as negative 3x. X times 5, you can't really multiply, so stick them together, it becomes 5x. And then negative 3 times 5, which I hope you agree is negative 15. Your next step is to figure out, okay, what can I combine? What can I combine? Well, I can combine like terms. So for example, the 5x as well as the negative 3x are two similar terms I'm going to combine. So what I'm going to do is the x squared has nothing to combine with, so I'm going to drop it down as x squared. 5x minus 3x can be combined, and I hope everybody agrees it's going to be a 2x. And then negative 15 has nothing, so you just drop it down, and then that's your final answer. Now, when you go to the distributive method, it's the same concept, except you're not drawing a box. You're just simply, what do you do when there's technically something in front of a parentheses? You distribute it. But the problem is how many pieces are in front of the parentheses. There's two individual pieces in front of this parentheses. So what's going to happen is you're going to distribute x times x, which is going to be called x squared, x times 5, which is going to be 5x. And then because you're done distributing the first piece to the last parentheses, you're going to move on to the next piece, which is negative 3. So then what's going to happen is this is going to become negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x. And then negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then you're going to ask yourself, can I combine like terms? Well, I can. I can combine the two middles. 5x minus 3x is going to be 2x positive. And then the other stuff that did not touch gets dropped down because there's nothing you can combine it with. And then that would be your final answer. And notice from the box method to the distributive method, you get the same exact answer. So it doesn't matter which method you choose. It's just that as you get older and work on more rigorous math, distributive method is going to be the one that you're going to probably follow through with. Box method is a technique that's taught in the beginning of distributing, but eventually kind of phases out because of the fact that you have to draw a rectangle. So now when we get to example 2, our goal is, okay, what form's it in? And remember, we want to make sure we always understand what form we're in. This is called factored form because these are called my x-intercepts. So because of that, I know that if this is factored form, they want me to turn it into standard form. So understand that technically there's two parentheses being multiplied. Looks exactly like example 1, except there's a y and a 3 in the front. So what I first need to do is I always need to distribute the parentheses. But remember, we're not going to do it the old way of box method. We're going to do it the new way of distributing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up as x minus 1 times x minus 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the 3 after I distribute. So when I distribute, remember what we said. You do the first with the first. X times x, x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. I'm done distributing the first with all the pieces in the back, so I'm going to move on to the bottom, which is negative 1 times x, which is negative 1x, which I'm going to write the 1 just because you're going to notice I'm going to combine them eventually. Negative 1 times negative 4, 2 negatives give you a positive, so that's positive 4. My next step is to ask myself, okay, can I combine like terms? I can. I can always combine the middles usually. So negative 4x minus 1x, you're going to combine, you're going to add, it'll be negative 5x, and everything else drops down because you haven't touched it. Now, I wish I was done, but we know we're not because we have to remember there was a 3 in the original problem. So what I need to do is I need to bring that 3 down, but understand that all of that is going to get multiplied by 3, which we should all be good at because distributing by a number in the front is one of the easiest topics. So we're going to distribute 3 to every single piece. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15x. And then 3 times 4 is going to be 12. And then because there's nothing else that I can touch, I'm going to bring down this y. And now you just turned something that was in factored form into standard form. Which remember, standard form is ax plus bx plus c. So in this example, notice what form you're in. And remember, at any point that you feel comfortable, stop the video, try it on your own, and then resume the video to see if you get it right. But in this example, you're going to see that this is also in factored form, which means these two numbers are my x-intercepts. Which means, okay, what am I going to do? Well, they want you to put it in standard form, which is everything worked out. So I need to work this out. Well, I have a parenthesis with a parenthesis, so you can do exactly what we did in example 2 and 1. You're going to drop down the x plus 5, and then you're going to drop down x minus 5, and you're going to remember that there's a 4 in the front that I have to eventually distribute at some point in the problem, which is usually the end. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply x times x, which we all agree is x squared. X times negative 5, they're not common terms, so you just stick them together, negative 5x. 5 times x is positive 5x. And then last one is 5 times negative 5, which is negative 25. Once I'm done with that step, I'm going to ask myself, can I combine like terms? Which again, usually in the middle, you're allowed to because they're similar. Negative 5 plus 5, one problem, that actually cancels out. So because it cancels out, I'm not going to write anything, but I'm going to drop down the stuff that I haven't worked out, which is x squared minus 25. And then my last piece is I have to remember somehow, hey, there's a 4 in the front of the problem. So that 4 that's in the original problem, I need to bring it down. And I now need to multiply 4 times what I had left, which I hope everybody agrees, we're just distributing the 4 to both pieces. So it's going to be 4x squared minus 100. And that would be my final answer. Notice it is still in standard form because that's your A, B is 0, and C is going to be 100. Which remember, the reason why standard form is so important, C is your y-intercept. So in this case, your y-intercept would be negative 100. So now we get to example 4. And notice the difference. That original problem that you were working with originally is not factored form anymore. This is called vertex form. Where vertex, in case you forgot, vertex tells you your h and your k, but that's not going to help you with standard form. But at least you know that this is your h and k for your vertex. So now we're going to go, what do we do? Well, this one's a little bit more challenging because there's a square. And if you remember about previous topics, a square means that it appears 2 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as x minus 2 times x minus 2. And then I'm going to drop down everything else, which is the 5 and the plus 1. By me doing that, this should bring out the fact that I'm multiplying these two parentheses. So I'm going to take x minus 2 and x minus 2 to the side, and I'm going to work this out first. So when I work this out, notice what happens. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2, they're not common, so just drop down negative 2x. Once you're done distributing the first one, move on to the second one. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And then negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Now, I wish I was done, but remember what we said. You can combine like terms, and my middles are both negative, so I'm going to add them, and it stays negative, so it'll be x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now, I wish I was done, but you got to remember, there's a 5 in the original problem. There's a 5 in the original problem in front of parentheses, so I need to put the 5 with the parentheses, and then there's a 1 on its outside by itself, outside the parentheses with a plus 1. So then I got to remember, okay, I'm going to distribute before I add, so I'm going to distribute the 5 now to 3 pieces, and it's going to be 5x squared minus 20x plus 20, and then drop down that 1 that you haven't touched. And then your last piece is combine the like terms. Like, for example, the 20 and the 1 will simply just be 21. So drop down the stuff that you don't touch and then add the 21. And that's your final answer. So you just turned something that was written in a very complicated way into standard form, which is great because now you have your A, you have your B, and you have your C. Now, in this last example, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready? And I think we are, because now we see that this form is vertex, H and K, and I need to turn to standard form, but we're not going to fall for the fact that this is only written once, because that square means it's written twice. So we're going to take this to the side, and we're going to write x plus 1 twice. And I'm going to drop the minus 9. Now, by me doing that, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the x plus 1s. So if you want, take this to the side just so that you can do some side work, and don't forget that there's still a 4 and a negative 9 in the problem. So when I distribute the x plus 1s to each other, x times x is x squared. X times 1 is just 1x, which I'm going to write in this situation because we know that we're about to distribute the 1 to the x, and I'm going to get another 1x. And then 1 times 1 will give me 1. And then you're going to ask yourself, can you combine like terms, which normally you can. So 1x will give me 2x. Reason why I wrote the 1 so that you know that you're combining these. And then you're going to ask yourself if you're done, and you know you're not because there's still a 4 and a negative 9 in the problem. So I'm going to drop down this 4. I'm going to put it in the front of the parentheses because there's parentheses between the x plus 1s. And then the minus 9 is by itself on the outside, so I'm just going to write minus 9. Then my last piece of information is to take this number that's in the front, distribute the 4 to every piece in the inside. You're going to get 4x squared plus 8x plus 4, and then minus 9 just drops down. Now remember, you're not distributing the 4 to the 9 because it's not inside the parentheses on the outside. So you have to leave it alone until the end. And then your last step is combine like terms, which in this case is the 4 and the negative 9. So this is going to simplify to be 4x squared plus 8x, and then 4 minus 9 is negative 5. And that would be your final answer with A, B, and C in standard form. And that's how you technically distribute everything into standard form. Thanks for watching.